بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله الذي قد اصطفى للعلم خير خلقه وشرفا،
وأفضل الصلاة والسلام على النبي أفضل الأنام
محمد وآله وصحبه والتابعين كلهم وحزبه.
وبعد ذا فالعلم خير رافعي، لا سيما فقه الإمام الشافعي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, we'll continue our lesson in fiqh Shafi'i, and today inshallah, before we start the chapter of fiqh, we finished the introduction, but I just wanted to cover a little bit more on introduction, and that is just look at the madhab Shafi'i, the books. We looked at it, but now we're going to mention the connection of these books to what we are going to study. If you look at the level of the stage, the conclusion stage of madhab Shafi'i, if you look at Al-Imam Al-Ghazali, he wrote the book Al-Wasit, and that is it was medium size. And he wrote another one, Al-Wajiz, that was a small volume. And also he wrote Al-Basit. It was a long book. But then they're all the same thing. It's just a abridged version of the long one, ikhtisar. So his Wajiz, when he wrote Al-Wajiz, Al-Imam Al-Rafi'i wrote Al-Muharrar to summarize what he wrote in Al-Wajiz. It was like collecting all the masail together. So Al-Muharrar was an explanation of collection of Imam Al-Ghazali's work. Al-Imam Al-Nawawi came along and wrote a book, Minhaj Al-Talibin. Minhaj Al-Talibin, the famous book of Minhaj, was a summary of Al-Muharrar. Also, Al-Imam Nawawi wrote Rawdat Al-Talibin. What is Rawdat Al-Talibin? Because Al-Imam Al-Rafi'i wrote another book to explain Al-Wajiz of Imam Al-Ghazali. And it's called Fath al-Aziz. That book was explaining, Sharh al-Kabir is also known as a Sharh al-Kabir for Wajiz. Al-Imam Rafi'i wrote that. Al-Imam Nawawi was explaining Sharh al-Kabir in a book called Rawdat al-Talibin. That shows you the connection. And finally, Al-Imam Ibn Hajar al-Haytami and Al-Imam al-Ramli, they both wrote books to explain Al-Minhaj, this Minhaj al-Talibin. Tuhfat al-Muhtaj, Sharh al-Minhaj, and also Nihayat al-Muhtaj. So now the four A'imma here, they actually did tanqih of the madhab. They collected all the books written in the past and cleaned it from any weak opinions. There's some, some aqwal, shadha, just an opinion that is really out of the way. So they cleaned it and they collected all the strong aqwal. And because, as you know, Al-Imam Shafi'i, he wrote his book but all the opinion that you hear now in Shafi'i, they're not necessarily his opinion, but they have been, the conclusion was reached using his principles of jurisprudence, that usul al-fiqh. Because Al-Imam Shafi'i wrote the book Al-Risala, a book of usul al-fiqh. That is a methodology of interpretation. So now going further from here, scholars have written small books, very small book, mukhtasarat, to explain to you the whole fiqh in short. Why have a small books if we can go directly to Minhaj? Because in Minhaj, it tells you all the opinion in every issue, all the opinions within the madhab. But mukhtasarat, it will teach you the madhab only using the strongest opinion in the madhab. And that's suitable for beginners. Books like Safinatul Najah, Safinatul Salah, books like Matn al-Ghayat wa al-Taqrib li Abu Shuja', Al-Muqaddimah al-Hadramiyya. These books are beginner books. It will teach you the whole of fiqh. You will get an overview of the whole of fiqh, but on the strongest opinion within the madhab. Then if someone wants to move up and become talibul ilm and become a scholar, then he will go to other books, which are next level. He will be exposed to more opinions and also be exposed to the evidence, dalil. So for us, our course now is just a foundation course. It's taken from all the books of madhab, what we collected only the strongest opinion in the madhab, and we're going to expose you to that. So now, to start, so starting the fiqh on madhab Imam Shafi'i and on al-qawl al-mu'tamad. So it is madhab Shafi'i, but of course madhab Shafi'i in some issues or many issues would have more than one opinion because of his scholars in his madhab. Sometimes they disagree on issues, but I will only mention that the qawl mashhur or the qawl mu'tamad, the opinion that is actually reliable and used by most scholars. So fiqh al-ibadat, fiqh is actually divided into 4 groups. When you study fiqh, there are 4 quarters of fiqh, they call it. The first quarter include salah, zakah, som, and hajj. And this is called, I think you should know, al-ibadat, the worship, the fiqh of worship. And the second quarter, because this is your relationship with Allah. It builds your relationship with Allah. Allah's rights, giving Allah his rights. And the second group is selling, al-bay' is selling. Rahan means collateral. Collateral, when you borrow money. When you borrow money, sometimes they'll tell you, can you leave your car with us? Or give us your house as collateral, or your gold. So this is called rahan. Al-ijara is rent. Fara'id is inheritance. Wasaya is will. Before someone dies, they write a will to say that my money should go here and there, should be paid in charity or build a mosque. So all this group is called the financial transactions. In Arabic, it's called al-mu'amalat. Because once you, mu'amalat mainly is because of our needs, our basic needs in life, like food and financial needs mainly. So that's why we have al-mu'amalat. Also, after that, once you have your financial needs, you will think about your natural needs into building a family, as you know. So you have family matters. You've got nikah, marriage. You've got talaq, divorce. You've got idad. Idad is like iddah, when a woman is divorced or her husband dies. When nafaqat is provision you give to your family or to your wife or children. So this is called al-usra, fiqh al-usra. So we've got fiqh al-ibadat, we've got fiqh al-mu'amalat, we've got fiqh al-usra. And then once people have been satisfied, sometimes they may commit some offenses or violations. So that's why we've got fiqh al-jinayat, fiqh of felony, if that's accurate. I don't know how to translate jinayat exactly, but it involves anything like injury or blood money or making an oath. If you make an oath and you don't do it, then it is a violation, and there's a way to expiate the sin. That would be mentioned in its place. Wal qada is court, anything to do with court matters. Al-qada, they call it. Okay, so now starting fiqh al-ibadat, inshallah, in the next 8 weeks, we'll finish it. 8 to 10 weeks, inshallah. Okay, going to ibadat. Ibadat breaks down into 4 things. Is actually extracted from the pillars of Islam. Pillars of Islam is 5. We've got 5 pillars in Islam. If you take the aqidah aside, aqidah is the belief, that's only studied in aqidah. Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, we study in the aqidah, in a different subject. So then we've got the 4 pillars remaining here, which is practical. Salah, prayer, zakah, Zakah is the money you pay out every year if you have money above nisab. Saum is fasting. And manasik is Hajj and Umrah. Hajj and Umrah is called manasik. Just as a reminder as well, if you have any question, please do write it in the chat. I can actually explain it. I may mention an Arabic word that you don't know the meaning, and it will maybe be preventing you from understanding further explanations. So to help you, please write it down and I will explain it. Questions by voice will prefer to remain at the end, inshallah. Now zooming into Salah now. Salah, the definition of Salah, what is Salah? Salah is aqwalun. The third quarter of fiqh was the family matters, fiqh al-usra. So aqwalun is things that you say. Af'alun, things you do. Makhsusa, makhsusa, special things you say or do. Muftatahatun, these sayings and these actions start with takbir. You say Allahu Akbar, and then you say so many things and you do so many things. Specified. Mukhtatama, it ends with taslim. Your salah starts with Allahu Akbar, followed by a few things you say, and then a few things you do, like sujood and ruku', and then you end with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. But he said ghaliban, he said most of the time, or mostly. Why did he say mostly? It's because sometimes you've got someone who is mute. He can't speak, but he's praying. Or you've got someone who is disabled and he can't do most of the actions. But we still consider what he's doing to be salah. So salah is broken down into 8 things here. If you know these 8 things, you've covered salah completely. First one is shurut. Shuruts are conditions. Actually, every action you do in this world is broken down into shurut and arkan. Shurut means conditions before you start. Arkan means pillars of the action. Ab'ad. Before we go further, shurut and arkan are necessary. If you miss any shart or you miss any rukn, then your prayer is invalid. Ab'ad is a sunnah that's highly recommended. Sunnah mu'akkada. If you miss any of this by forgetting, then you can do sujood sahw. This is different from shurut and arkan. If you miss them even by forgetting, you have to go back and do them. Hayat, they are sunnah but not mu'akkada. And these are, if you miss them, even deliberately, you're not sinful, but your reward is reduced. Mubtilat, they are nullifiers. If you do any, your salah is not valid. Makruhat, they are also like nullifiers, but it doesn't break the salah. It reduces the reward. Al-khata' fi salat, mistake in salah. Any mistake you make, there's a way to solve it in salah. And this will explain when we cover that. Anwa'u salat, type of salah. You've got salatul fard, compulsory prayer, obligatory prayers, and also you've got sunnah, rawatib, you've got other sunnahs, you've got salatul jum'ah, we have salatul kusuf, salatul khusuf, salatul janaza, many types of salah, which will be covered. So this is the main focus of the next few lessons. And today we'll be focusing on shurut. Shurut, there are 2 types, shurut of salah. You've got shurut wujub, condition for salah to be wajib on you. There are 6. Al-Islam, you have to be a Muslim for salah to be wajib on you. Al-Bulugh, to complete the age of puberty. And the age of puberty, in fiqh, it has signs. If you have those signs, then you've reached it. First one first two applies to both male and female. The first sign is to reach 15-year-old, to complete 15-year-old, but we have to count using Hijri calendar. So for both male and female, if they reach 15, then they are baligh. The second one is to have wet dreams, and the sperm would come out. So they wet themselves when they wake up, and this applies to both male and female. Not very common for females, but still theoretically is there in fiqh. And this one can start from the age of 9 going up. And the third one is menses, or period. They call it period or menses for females. And this starts from age 9. 9 go up. Al-aqlu, to be mentally sane or have sound intellect. And someone who's not insane, is not majnoon. So if someone is insane, then this condition is not met, and salah is not wajib. Also, to be free from menses and postnatal blood that comes out after giving birth. Someone has to be free from those for the salah to be wajib. If a lady is in period or in menses, then it's not wajib on her to pray. Salamatul hawas, your senses should be healthy, should be free from defects. But we are only talking about the senses of hearing and seeing. So if someone cannot hear or see, is blind and deaf from young age, from when he was born, then salah is not wajib. But if they became deaf and blind later in their life, then they had a chance to learn how to pray. And if they're missing one of the senses, like someone is blind, but he or she can hear, then he can learn about salah and is wajib on them. And if the person is deaf, but he can see, he or she can see, then salah becomes wajib. So here it means if someone loses both senses, the senses of hearing and seeing. Bulughul da'wah is for the message of the Prophet ﷺ, the message about salah, to reach the person. If the person doesn't know salah is wajib, then it's not wajib until the message reaches them. So these are 6 conditions that if they are there, then salah is wajib on a person. We've also got conditions of validity. For your salah to be valid, you have to meet these 10 conditions. Al-Islam, to be a Muslim. Al-Aql wa Tamyiz, to be mentally sane and not majnoon, not insane. And a Tamyiz is to reach 7 years old. But the definition is like someone who can understand the message and follow instructions. And most of the time is 7-year-old. And that's why in fiqh, they specify to be 7 years old. So someone who's 7 years old, it's not wajib on them to pray. But if they pray, their salah is valid. So tamyiz is a condition of siha, validity, not the condition of making the wajib. Okay, taharatul hadathain, to be pure from the 2 hadath. And we will talk about hadath in the next page. There are 2 states of impurity, a major one and a minor one. So someone has to be free from them. Taharatul khabath, to be free from najas. Khabath is the same as najas. To be free from khabath. Khabath is like some impurities in your clothes or in the place you're praying or in your body. Things like urine and others. But we will mention all the types of impurities at the right place. Is going to come. Ma'arifatul dukhul al-waqt, to know that the time has come in for dhuhr or for asr, for any prayer. You can't pray if you do not know whether you are in the time of dhuhr. You have to wait until you confirm that it's the time. Otherwise, the salah is invalid. Satrul awra, to cover the awra. The awra is a part of the body that shouldn't be exposed during prayer. We have so many types of awras. There's awra for prayer. There's awra for other situations, like a woman when she's outside in front of men. She has a different borders of awra. In salah as well, it is awra. The borders can be different. Istiqbalu ayn al-qibla, to face the qibla. Exactly. That applies if you're actually in Mecca and you are in the haram of Mecca. But if you are away from Mecca, you're in a different country, then you should be facing the direction of qibla. You can't be facing exactly Kaaba. It's not easy. Al-ilmu bi faradiyatiha, the prayer you're praying, you should know that is actually fard. If you believe that you're praying dhuhr and you believe it's just sunnah, then your salah is invalid. Also, a person should not have a belief that some parts of his prayer not to be wajib. Like if he reads the Fatiha and then believes that Fatiha is not wajib, then he lost a condition. Or if he makes ruku and believes that ruku is not really wajib. So he or she should know which parts of the prayer is wajib. Or if he believes everything is wajib, no problem. But he shouldn't do the opposite by believing what is wajib not to be wajib. Also, the 10th condition is to avoid anything that nullifies the prayer, like eating and speaking. And it will come the topic, we will talk about prayer nullifiers. So now we're going to zoom into the condition of Pahara here. There's no need to explain about Islam. There's no need to explain about Aql and Tamyiz, but we will start about Pahara and explain it in more details. At-Tahara, what does it mean? It means removing the hadath and removing the najas. Hadath is a state of impurity, a state of ritual impurity. We will explain that. So to remove it. Also to remove the najas. The najas is like having urine on your clothes or body, and other impurities like blood. We will also have a detailed lesson on najis and hadath, or fima ma'nahuma, or something like that, like removing hadath and najas, and that is tayammum. When you do tayammum, it actually acts like wudu or like ghusl. Ghusl means washing your body. So tayammum, it stands in its place, but it's not the same. وَعَلَى صُورَتِهِمَا, or similar to it, is similar to it. صُورَتِهِمَا, which means it's not really removing hadath or removing najas, but is the same in action. Like when you renew your wudu, if you make wudu and you have wudu and then another prayer comes, you go and make wudu again. This time you're still doing tahara, but you're not removing any hadath or najas, but ala suratihima, it is the action is the same. We still call it tahara. Okay, tahara, there are two types. There's tahara min al-hadath, to remove the hadath, and there's tahara min al-khabath, to remove the najas. There are two types of hadath. A small hadath is a small state of impurity, can be removed using wudu, making wudu. And a major hadath can be removed, a major hadath, by having ghusl, and that is washing the whole body. What is the condition of removing hadath and removing khabath? The condition is to use water. Ma'un mutlaq, to use plain water, clean water that's pure. They call it ma'un mutlaq. Why do they call it mutlaq? It means the water is in a state that you can still call it water. But if you take water and add some perfume or add some ward, is a smell, you call it ma'ul ward. It's no longer ma'. Or if you mix water with some sugar and some powder, make it like a juice, then you don't call it water anymore. So we should use only what you can call it water. And now we look at Taharatul Hadath. Taharatul Hadath is the Tahara of Hadath. And there are two types of Hadath here. Before you do Tahara, you've got four things. Mutatahhirun, the person who is actually purifying himself. Mutatahharun bihi, the tool he's using. You've got the actual action of Tahara, fi'lu Tahara. And you've got what are you cleaning yourself from. Okay. Mutatahhir, a person who's trying to make himself pure, must be a Muslim and must be mumayyiz. Mumayyiz is someone who's reached 7-year-old. The means of Tahara is water, as you can see here, ma'u mutlaq. The action of Tahara can either be wudu or ghusl. Wudu is ablution and ghusl is washing the body, the whole body. Mutatahharun minhu, what are we cleaning ourselves from? There's hadath asghar and there's hadath akbar, big hadath. A small hadath necessitates wudu. A big hadath necessitates ghusl, which is washing the whole body. Now, before we do explain about hadath, we'll have to explain types of water. Types of water. You've got 3 types of water. There's tahur, which is ma'u mutlaq. Pure water is actually called tahur because it's pure and it purifies someone. So tahur, there are 3 types. There's mubah. Mubah means it's halal to use. وهو الأصل, it is the origin. The original water coming from a natural source, then it's mubah, like rainwater, water from river, water from the sea, and all the natural sources of water in their natural state. So it's mubah. You've got another type of water called makruh. It's makruh to use it, even though it's pure water. This is in Madhab Shafi'i mainly, like water which has been heated on the sun. It's been placed outside in the sun until it became a bit warm. When does it become makruh? 4 conditions. To be in hot country. Yeah. Makruh is something that, because in Sharia, we've got 5. All the rulings are 5. Wajib is where you get the reward to do when you do it. And if you don't do it, you get sins. Haram is the opposite. If you do it, you get sins. And if you don't do it, you don't get sins. And if you leave the haram because of Allah, you get reward. You've got makruh. If you do it, you don't get sins. But if you leave it, you get reward. And if you go sunnah or mandub, if you do it, you get reward. If you don't do it, no sin. Mubah, you can do it or leave it. Nothing is affected. You are free to leave it or do it. Okay, so makruh, the water which has been heated in the sun, if it is in a hot country and if you use it on your body, and if it is in a container that's metal, ma'adin, it should be a metallic container. And also before cooling it. So only 4 conditions are there, it becomes makruh. If it is in a cold country, it's okay. If you don't use it on your body, you use it for washing clothes, it's okay. If it was in glass container or some other clay container, then it's okay. It's not makruh. Or if you cool it down, then it's okay. Okay, muharram, water that is haram, like water that has been stolen, then it's haram, yes. Okay, we finish with this. The second type of water is tahir ghayr mutahhir. It's pure water, but it doesn't purify. What is it? Al-musta'malu fi fard al-tahara. If water has already been used for tahara, someone made wudu, the water that's falling from his hand and his body, if someone makes wudu with it, then it does not purify someone, even though that water is pure. Okay, إذا انفصل عن العلوي, but actually there are three conditions. It has to be used in fardu tahara. If someone makes wudu, his second wudu, then that water that he used falling from him can be used for someone else, because it was not used in fard tahara, it was used in tahara that was sunnah. Second condition, after the water actually separated from his body. Yeah, so it is actually غير مطهر. Also, the water has to be little, less than قلتين. قلتين is like 193 liters, or approximately 200 liters. If you've got 200 liters in a container and you dip your hand to make wudu and water falls back to the container, then the water still remains tahur, because there's a lot of water. But if water is less, then of course it becomes used and you can't use it. Okay, another type of water that is tahir غير مطهر is mutaghayyir, is water that has changed by being mixed. It's been mixed by something that is pure. Mustaghna anhu, it is unnecessary, that mixing, because sometimes mixing can be necessary, like soil in the river, or stones, or sometimes water in the river near a tree. Some tree leaves fall in it and they change the water. That's fine, because you cannot avoid that. But things that can be avoided, if they change the water, then it becomes غير مطهر. It does not purify, but it remains pure. Okay, the third type of water. Okay, another example here is like if oil mixed with water, or tea bags. Yeah, but things that you cannot avoid, like salt in the sea water, that's fine. Or salt even in tap water, sometimes there's some level of salt. There's no problem. Okay, you've got najis now, najis. Okay, what is najis? Water that is najis, what is it? Najis is any type of, it is tahur water that's mixed with najis. Najis is like urine and blood and many others that we will mention, like the saliva of a dog or khanzir. So it's mixed with najasa, the water, and it didn't change. So now we've got two types of water here. If water is above qullatayn, it has reached 193 liters or above, then, and you mix it with najasa, then you've got two conditions here. It has to change. You've got one condition. If water is a lot, then it has to change for it to be najis. So if you've got 193 liters of water and a little bit of urine is added to it, and the water doesn't change the taste or color or smell, then that water remains tahur. But if it changes, then it's no longer tahur. But if you've got water that's less than 193 liters, any najis mixed to it makes it najis, regardless of whether it changes its features, its characteristics or not. So as you can see, laqa najasa wa lam yataghayyar. It's mixed with the najasa, but it didn't change. Qalilun, if the water is less, is little. becomes najis. Okay, another type of najis water is water that has changed with najis. Najis went to it and it changed. So that can apply to little water or a lot of water. Less than qullatain or above qullatain. So in summary, if water is less than qullatain, a najasa will make it najis. If you add najasa into it, makes it najis regardless of the changes. But if it's a lot, then it has to change. And the last page here is we're talking about al-hadath al-asghar. What is hadath asghar? What causes a state of impurity that is minor? You've got four things here. If something comes out from the front private part, one of the two places, front private part or the back, that's like urinating and other things when you go to toilet. So if something comes out, then you have hadath asghar, and you have to make wudu before you pray. Also touching private part. If someone touches their private part or someone else, maybe you could be cleaning a baby. If you touch the private part of the baby, then your wudu is gone and you've got hadath asghar. But the condition for touching the private part here is only if you touch by your palm of your hand or the inner surface of your fingers. Then it breaks your wudu and makes you in a state of hadath asghar. And it only applies to the one who's touching it, of course. And because al-lamisu faqat, the one who's touching is the one to lose his state of purity, and they will become in a state of hadath asghar. And if someone touches using the back of the hand or the back of the fingers, then it's fine, it doesn't break. Also, zawalul aql, the third thing is losing their sense, the sanity. If someone becomes insane, then the wudu is broken. وَمِنْهُ, among losing sanity is sleeping. If someone in a state of, someone sleeps, then they lose their wudu, they become in a state of hadath asghar. There is an exception here, إِلَّا نَوْمَ قَاعِدٍ, except the sleep of someone who's sitting. مُمَكِّنٍ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. If he's sitting very well and his buttocks are really on the floor, tight there, then they don't break with their wudu even if they're sleeping. And the reason behind it is that sleeping, if someone sleeps, we suspect that he might fart in his sleep. Some air would come out. So if he's sitting properly like this, then the likelihood of air coming out from the back is lessened. Okay, the fourth one is touching. A man and a woman touching. If they touch the skin. If the skin touch, that breaks the wudu and they become in a state of hadath asghar. A man and a woman. إلا محرما, except someone you are not allowed to marry. People you are not allowed to marry, they are your close family. And this touching breaks wudu of the one who's touching and the one who's being touched. And also, if you touch not by skin, then it's okay. If it's okay in terms of wudu. We're not talking about the ruling of touching a woman. That's not allowed. But if you happen to touch, then it breaks your wudu. But if you touch hair or nails, then your wudu is not broken. So if only if both sides are skin touching. Okay, ma yahrumu bihi. Now, once you have hadath al-asghar, what is haram? If you are in a state of hadath al-asghar, you are not allowed to pray. Also, you are not allowed a tawaf, to go around the Kaaba, do tawaf, like doing Umrah or Hajj. You should be pure from hadath al-asghar. Also, masul mushaf, to touch mushaf, to touch the Quran, then you're not allowed to touch it. Also, hamlul mushaf, to carry the mushaf with you, you're not allowed. If you are in a state of hadath asghar. But there's an exception. If you carry Mus'haf among other books in a bag, then it's fine, as long as you're not touching it. And also, you're allowed to touch Mus'haf if the person touching it is a young boy, young girl, going to study in a madrasa, going to study Quran, and they're young, then they're allowed for that need. And also, if you're touching the book of tafsir, you can touch it when you're in a state of Hadath al-Asghar, on the condition that the words of tafsir are more than the words of Quran. And an example that they use is Tafsir al-Jalalain. Tafsir al-Jalalain, if you start from Al-Baqarah until Surah al-Muzammil, approximately, actually is equivalent in the words of the Quran and words of tafsir. But towards the end, then there's more tafsir. So it is allowed to touch Jalalain because there are a few more words more than the actual Quran. So that's actually one of the brief tafsir. The other tafasir like Ibn Kathir, as you know, the explanation is more than the Quran itself, so it's fine. And may Allah make us, we pray to Allah to allow us to apply this knowledge and for Allah to increase our knowledge and to purify our intentions, to seek knowledge with the intention of pleasing Allah and getting closer to Allah. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.